So let's get started today. I wanted to look at this piece. It's very beautiful. But there are some things about it that are not that great. And most of the time, these things stump you guys. And you don't see improvement on images like this for years and years. But the student wants to keep the style. So you got a student that is adamant about their style. They know they like their style. They don't want to change it. And then you've got realism. Realism comes in and throws in a bunch of stuff. Imagine an empty cup. And the artist has skill, whatever skill they have. And a lot of that skill is mixed in with style. So the style rolls up to like this. So this is their actual real skill, their real fundamental realism skill. Then creativity and style come in and dilute it. They dilute the solution. It's just water at this point. Lots of style washed in with very little realism. So the realism is here. Right, think with me, think with me. We're visual thinkers. The realism is here and the style is here. The artist doesn't want to lose their style. You add in more realism over the years. You just get less and less water in the mix. So style kind of is no longer a functioning part of the designing of the art piece, whatever it is. If you have very little skill and mostly style, it's just a glass of water. Everybody needs a little bit of style. Everybody needs a little bit of creativity to get things going, to make things interesting, to add the human effect, to add the human experience in with the art that makes people go, this art makes me feel something. So the style is very necessary. You can't have a cup full of only realism. So you guys may think this is what I'm asking for. No, it is not. It is me saying you guys are all 99% of the artists, I swear to you, that I've taught are mostly just style. It's just copying someone else, learning the habit, no real function behind it. So I'd say this artist is like somewhere here. They've got a lot of style, but their realism is somewhere like that. If I were to estimate it, make an educated and experienced guess off the decade plus I've been teaching artists. So this is what I would say is a bad place to be because you feel like you are missing out on style. Listen to me well. If you take anything from today's class, take this away. You are allowed to raise the realism concentrate, okay? You are allowed to raise the realism. You are expected to raise the realism. You are also allowed to raise the style in the whole thing. You're allowed to do that. You're allowed to study style. You're allowed to look at artists and do master studies of the exact fundamental they broke to capture that style. You are allowed to. This is what a great cup looks like. Okay, right here. Okie dokie. This is a beautiful cup. It's mixed in, and then eventually everything mixes together, and you have this beautiful concoction of style blending harmoniously with realism until you get a beautiful glowing potion that is you. And every one is different, and every one of them is a different experience, a different portfolio, a different gallery. It's beautiful, and that's what makes us individual artists, and that's what makes everything really fun to look at when we are looking at, gallery to gallery. That's the differentiating factor between different artists, is the degree of fundamentals they kept and broke, and eventually your beautiful potion is functional. It's working. It's glowing. The magic spell worked. The potion worked. Okay, so what I mean when I'm adding realism to this very stylized piece of art is I am trying to raise the let's go back to the cup. I'm trying to raise the concoction so that it is at least half of the water that's there. So when I'm adding fundamentals today, I am adding them to catch up to the amount of style you have. You've washed away a lot of fundamentals with style. I just want to catch up to the 50-50 mark. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? Are you guys kind of picking up what I'm putting down? Raise the fundamental ratio. Beautiful. More like a lot of stylistic preferences, but very little technical ability to execute. Two principles, one. Oh my God. Okay, so let's catch up. Let's catch up to this style and add a little bit more realism in the mix just to help it along, because you can't just have a glass of water and call it a potion. So this is one big ball. All right, her head is one big ball. The light, as you've told us, from the nose is coming from this direction. That means we need some shadows pulling around the far end of the sphere. We need some highlights around the hair. This hair here needs to respond to the light. This is all shadow. This is brightness. This is shadow. This is brightness. Then we need to cast some shadows off the arm. We need some core shadows on the cylinder of the arm. We need some cast shadows here. We need a little bit more work back here, but I like that cast shadow you added. At least you had that. This cast shadow of the neck would be total. And then we just need to add some more stylistic choices to make sense of your background. She seems like an ethereal vision of some kind, or maybe an Ophelia character. So what I want to do is try to give her that glow at the very end. So one of the things that I do in order to just limit the amount of work I have to do is just grab the background color, put it on darken, and just darken the piece. You don't have to darken like this. And where I delete now is I'm going to delete on a spherical pattern by using a relief method. And I'm radially deleting to reveal the areas that are coming back. Do you see that based off the map I just drew for you? All right, so this is what I'm doing everywhere. And I don't have to use this method. I could use something else, but for now this is working. And I'm just trying to capture where those areas are. Just creating more of a shadowy presence of the light source against that background, more of a suggestion of the light. And try to limit some of that excessive exposure that you have. But we will bring in a glow, which will bring back your exposure, but in a very uniform way that'll actually feel diffused as we would see it diffuse in a soft glowing object in a dark room, which is what you've signaled to us based off the light environment you picked. The light environment you picked is that purple color in the background. Okay. So I don't want to get rid of this style. I don't. I'm not here to do that. That's not my MO. What I want to do is remind you guys, your cup can't just be filled with style. It has to be something else. Something else has to be mixed in there, creating a really, really interesting effect against the oh, I lost my magic wand. Okay, against the background. So things were slowly emerging from the background in a really, really uniform way. All the form seems like it's living under the same rules, under the same effects. And I'm just continuing this here, trying to just bring in more depth. Okay, and then because again the light is mostly dominating this far side, I have to now consider the side that looks away from the light. Really, really simple fundamentals to catch up to the style. This entire far section should be receding away from the light. Even if your plan is to make her glow later, that's fine. You can do that. But before you make her glow, you have to respect the first light source that hit her. That's the primary. Even if she glows a little bit, that's an after effect that you can add later. It's more of like a special effect. It's not really factored into the filming, if you know what I mean. And I'm just doing this consistently throughout. So I'm not trying to damage that washed out, diffused look. I'm just trying to bring in some more form because the symptom, like the symptom itself, was that it was flat. And the cause was that there is no response to the light source. Even on a kind of like a soft brush level, there was no real response to the light source. It was kind of cell shaded. You did have responses to the light source for sure, but they felt like they were pre-cooked. They were added in in your mind based off muscle memory of where to add shadow on a nose. You weren't formulating all the objects under the same superior light source. So this is the shadows I added. Again, I'm being very, very conservative with the amount of shadows I'm adding, because I don't really want to take away from what you're building here, which is a very mystical kind of dreamy scene, Zelda in the fountain, kind of praying priestess type of situation we've got here. All right, so I'm just doing some more feathering, which is just using the end of my brush, the outer edges of my brush, to create a recession of the farthest sections of the image. I'm trying to throw some of these lavender stalks or whatever they are, salvia, I'm trying to throw it back into the background. Not all of them are on the same level, right? That wouldn't make any sense if they're all flat on the same level. And you see I'm zooming out so I can make better, more informed decisions. Write that back to me. Zooming out helps you make informed decisions when it comes to your design. And I'm just grabbing this darkness here and just throwing it in. So before I did all this, I'm going to go backward to before I started that, pasting that in, just to show you the bit of recession I've added. I'm going here. Okay, the other issues, now that I can flip the canvas, the other issues are as follows. We have extreme flatness out here, meaning that the face doesn't feel like it's part of the hair. The hair feels like it's falling straight down. The face also doesn't have an outward projection to it. It doesn't feel like it's pushing out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get the face to feel like it is part of a three-dimensional shape. See how it was flat before and after. I'm not trying to make her pout. I'm just trying to make her face actually look like it's 3D. I'm also raising the eyebrow and the eye so they feel like they are part of that rotation. So let me show you again. Before, after. The eye that's closest to us is smaller or as small as the eye that's... Okay, so before, after. Before, after. I'm not trying to make her look like she's puckered up. I'm just trying to make her lips look like they are cylinders that are rotating with the 3/4 view. Again, before, after. It just looked like a flattened front view. Flattened front view, 3/4 view. Flattened front view, 3/4 view. Are you guys watching? And then I'm just adjusting the eye just a little bit more. I'm not trying to give her an expression. I'm just trying to make it look like we've got rotation. Density is nice and low. Osi, you're so naughty. Osi says hi. Okay, and then I'm just going to give the chin some form, I guess. Before, after, before, after. Do you guys see that difference? And then I'm just going to flip the canvas back to where we were. And this shadow color right here, I'm going to use it to create some shadow falling off of this hair. And oopsie, I may need to restart Photoshop, but it's okay. So once again, we are unflattening things. We are separating surfaces from each other. Right, the same shadow color you had here, which I am going to expand upon. And the same thing with the chin. I'm giving the chin some presence. So this is where you would go if you were left to your own devices and learned how to render faces way down the line in your journey. This is where you would have ended up anyway. You would have ended up looking for the things that you could add to your cup that dilute some of your style just a little bit and introduce some form. Okay, so I'm just trying to build this very, very believable overlapping of values. And then I'll show you the before and after. Again, my desire is not to get rid of your style. My desire is simply to add something to it that will enhance it and make it more recognizable or like charming to the eyes of the viewer. If realism adds charm, style also adds charm. That's why we mix two beautiful things together to create our stylized hybrid art. And I think that's the best kind of art, when it's got a little something going on in there. If it's just photorealism, If it's just abstract Picasso paintings, no offense to anybody who's a fan, you know, for me, this doesn't do anything for me. But when we have style mixed with realism, that's where that huge population of artists lives. The artists that we know and love, that are behind all of the things that we love about animated movies. That's it. That's the mix of style and realism. And you are right there in the middle trying to fit in there. See these shadows here? And then I guess that's an empty layer. And I'm just going to mix up some stuff. This nose bridge is not an edge all the way through. There isn't some crazy divot on the other side of the nose here. This starts mixing in with the rest of the forehead. But because your history is mostly in anime style recreation or anime template recreation, that is why you accidentally kept that edge all the way up there. You don't know yet how to translate edges or lines to edges, sorry. That's something you should study. So I just translated an edge to a line. Not every edge is an overlap edge. Write that back to me. Sometimes edges are surface area transition edges. And then again, I'm keeping your style. I'm not trying to change it. All I want to do is just add contrast where we need some and make it look a little bit more believable that way. Then there's the arm. That arm. Is it that you couldn't find a reference? Like in this particular angle, it's a pretty straightforward angle to find a reference in. That arm is very, very long. Okay. Alrighty. So I won't do that. Let's just keep that going. I won't show the before and after just yet. Next I'm going to get my pencil brush and I'm just going to start creating, breaks in the hair where I added shadow, because sometimes hair will break through the shadow and start reflecting. Hair has almost like a chrome effect to it when it's shiny and oily enough. All right, and then in a new layer, I'm just getting Dodge tool and I am just building up the highlight of the hair just slightly. You see that? It just helps us generate a really, really believable shine in the head for a blonde. Okay, and then again, just trying my best not to overdo it. Careful with dodge tool. The same thing is going to happen here along the arm. I'm just finding those points of shine and I'm deleting away at them so that I'm not just throwing in a big smear of shine cream cheese all over this, okay? It's got to be tasteful. I'm doing a lot of food related analogies today. I'm not sure why. I think I'm very hungry. Imagine I spoke in teacher voice all the time. Okay, I'm just gonna throw that there. And all right, so I'm just capturing that little shadow. Just trying to find these little sneaky shadows that are hiding in little pockets. Once you have the big shadows, the little shadows start to pop out. Okay. Using darken on a pretty red shadow color, just like that, so I don't get dulled shadows. I want the shadows to read as vibrant, even though things are pretty pastel. But I'm not trying to just add a bunch of vibrance to this scene. I want to create a really beautiful tug of war between the light and the shadow of the scene, both being soft. Both are soft. Both are fighting for the same thing. I think I've seen this character before. It's very, very familiar to me. Was this a student's drawing from back then? I think so. And I'm just throwing a couple more. Just adding a bit more shadows transitioning into the back there. Okay, so I'll be done in a second. All I did, again, I did not try to dismantle their style and make it my own thing and completely just take over their world. All I wanted to do is just show there are ways to mix realism in there without losing anything at all. So yeah, if you are interested in getting a critique, you just have to go to my subreddit. I feel like there needs to be a shadow here. If you've ever had trouble, hey, where do I put shadows? I'm so confusion right now. You just flip the canvas. Bam. Now you know, hey, what the heck? I didn't see this before in the previous flip. How do I see it now? It's just how the brain works. It starts to tunnel vision, not informing you of other areas that may look wrong until you flip the canvas. Even I, your teacher, have this same thing. It's just part of the firmware of our brains. It's just how they work. When you flip the canvas, suddenly they just see a whole bunch of new stuff. Why? I don't know. We need a system update. We really need a firmware, hardware update. We need an everything. We need a new plague, as Dwight says. And then I'm just adding a bit of shadow just here. I feel like there should be a pocket of some kind. So bear with me while I figure that out. All right, so I'm just trying to make sense of this hair here, like different levels of hair overlapping, swirling, clashing. So I want to make sure I'm staying true to the hairstyle and not changing it too much. Any questions at all so far? And if you are confused about hair, I think you guys, I think it's time we go back to fabric studies. What do you guys think? Just a community-wide fabric study challenge, along with the creature design challenge I'll upload very shortly to you guys. So again, I'm breaking up the shadow I created. Remember that shadow, that big splosh of shadow I added? I'm cutting through it with an eraser to create the effect of hair. Just like that. Okay, and I'm just finding these little pockets of hair versus highlight, and I'm doing the same thing, just adding banding of some kind, overlapping, shadows. I'm just thinking flat cylinders or flat cubes. really, they make the biggest difference. All right. And then there's like the shadow of the lower half of the canvas, which I don't want it to take over. So I'm going to use lighten and kind of try to get this stuff all. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to do this. So where are my tools? Right there. Everything is just out of place because it's a new setup. So bear with me. So in a new layer, no, in the same layer, I'm going to get lighten brush mode. And I'm going to just brush over the lower half because it feels like you have too much contrast down there between all the units. You don't need overlapping down here. What you do need is a large shadow, creating that atmospheric transition into that fog of darkness in the character's environment. Again, signaled by that background. There's so much you can do with just a simple background. Okay? And so this is that shadow. That's that diffused layer underneath. If you really want to, you could darken a great deal of that lower half of her body. So select inverse. You could just completely like black it out. And create more of a shadow of some kind. For me, I really just want to just cut off that lower half of the canvas because it's not necessary. It's not needed. That lower edge of the canvas, sorry. The next thing I'm going to do is that thing that I talked about. So now that we've responded to the very first light source and the background and the combination of those two environmental factors, now we can add in that glow. Before I do, I want to sort of figure out this chest area. I know you're not done. This arm really needs to just sit up here. This elbow is way too low. So it's either the elbow is low or the wrist is awkward. There's other ways to do this, gesture. So then I'm going to go to soft light. I'm going to pick the color that I feel like really represents her glow. It might be her skin color, it might be her hair color. And I'm just going to throw that everywhere with my soft brush along the outside rim of the character, even on the lower half. And what that creates is the feeling of that angelic glow against the background. I'm really going to throw it in because I don't need to worry too much about things diffusing. I'm in a new layer, so I can just delete to my heart's content until I get a really believable, convincing glow. I'm going to delete at the face. I don't want the face to be thrown off. And I'm just trying to create this almost angelic, ethereal type of glow. Okay, so before, after. It's bringing back that sense of glowing sprite, angelic character. Even if the character is not actually physically glowing, in movies and games and any kind of show, any kind of entertainment, we add glow to characters to signal their importance, to signal a epiphany of some kind, to signal their beauty, to signal a memory that's happening. We add characters, or we add characters in glow, or glow to characters, and we add glow to a scene or a frame to make the character feel angelic or important. Light is used in all kinds of amazing tricks in movies. The next thing I'm going to do before I let you guys go is just spot saturate. So I'm just going to saturate the eyes. I'm just going to try to bring something else into the scene, a little bit on the flowers, a little bit on the skin, a little bit on the lips, and that's it really. I'm not going to try to do too much. One thing is I feel like the eyelids, the eyeshadow, sorry, and the mascara could be a little bit darker, but that's really up to you. What I will do is at least add the shadow of the lash line. It's a really important shadow. It's best to not forget it. Okay. So let's take a look at the before and after now. So you guys ready? I don't know what the original flip was. Before, after. All right, pick a spot and look at the before and after. Before, after, before, after. Too much exposure. Now we have stages. The hair is closer to the camera than the arm. The arm is closer to the camera than the chest. The hair is closer to the camera than the face. The face is closer to the camera than the back of the hair. So we're creating levels. We're creating stages that are casting shadows on each other, like a line of beads on a necklace. Then there was the 3/4 view, which was not active. The 3/4 view was non-active, and there was no rotation. Nothing was actually rotating. The eyes were not rotating. The cylinders of the lips were not rotating. The nose was kind of trying to be a front view nose. Then you have this awkward edge that you didn't know how to replace. You need to soften that edge based off an anatomy. Anatomy is that form that's filling the cup again. Then we have the atmospheric presence of the shadows. That's just the general shadows I added. Remember that big layer of shadow I added at the very start of the painting? Do you guys remember that? That was so that I could slowly delete away at it to create the sense of volume. Because that happens in the real world. Shadow is slowly denied. Okay, so this was a critique mostly focused on preserving style while adding supporting fundamentals. Okay, and then of course there's that beautiful glow that's added at the end, which just makes things really, really fun to look at. Some spot saturation, which you don't have to have. Raise your hand if you feel like I damaged the style. And if I did, what's your reasoning? I really do want to know. If you guys feel like, and even in the comment section, if you guys feel like I damaged the style, I really do want to know. And in what way are your eyes telling you I damaged the style? Right? Because in this community, what we're trying to do is we're always researching, we're always trying to push the discourse on realism and the fine balance of realism. That's what we're doing. We're scholars of this subject. What's the right amount of realism to make something look good? I feel like that's just my whole life's work. That's my whole mission statement. So you know, when I add realism to images, I'm not trying to take away from what's already there. I'm trying to work for that great scheme, that great mission I'm on, to find the perfect amount of realism so that it's charming, but still has a lot of its original style charm. The style is intact 100% in my opinion. All you did was add physics, basically turn graphics from low to ultra. I basically turned it into a 3D model. Do you guys know what I'm thinking? That's kind of what I try to think about. 100%, yeah, we are scholars because we are asking the questions continuously. Scholars ask questions, and they continue to try to revisit pre-existing fundamentals of their subject and continue to ask questions and see how much further they could carry these themes and how to challenge the theme with the new range of questions that might advance the subject, whatever subject they're studying. So scholars are always asking questions. And I feel like every single time we do a critique, we're asking the question, what's the right amount of style and the right amount of realism? So in this critique, I added a little bit of realism, but I preserved the style. And I feel like this has added a lot of skill to this scene, a lot of skill to the image, makes it very, very agreeable to look at, whereas before it felt like a cutout and it was flattened against a basic background. Okay, so I hope you guys learned something today. If you guys want to submit your work for critique, all you got to do is go to istebrak.com and click on the subreddit icon right here. That'll take you to my subreddit where you can submit your work for critique. And this is where I found this piece of art today. So it's not hard to get critique. It's not hard to be part of a community. Being a part of the community means that you are constantly improving. You are constantly watching people critique. You're reading critiques. You're learning new terminology. You're learning new concepts. You are in the state of learning. You are in the act of education. It is not stagnant water. It is not stagnant skill. You are going somewhere. You are getting better. 1 year from now, your art will not be recognizable to you. So this is where I found this piece today. Thank you everyone for watching. If you guys want my masterclass, if you're trying to learn how to paint a portrait from scratch, you don't have to have skill. You can go into it completely new to art. I teach you everything from the literal ground up. I teach you just the canvas is flat. There's nothing there. And then we have a portrait after 3 hours. So I teach all of that. Plus, there is a written text, synced notes that you can read alongside the class while you're painting. Pause the class, take a look at the notes, see how I've listed the exact same information in the video but in written form, and which brushstroke to place where. It is completely foolproof. There is no way you can fail. You will end up with a portrait at the end, and you'll know the habits that you pick up in my masterclass are time proof. They're timeless. They are going to be good habits, good foundational rules for you to base your skill on moving forward. So I hope you guys learned something today. I'll see you guys next class. Bye.